and welcome to Suffolk New College's guide on how to pass your GCSE English Language Paper 2. Okay, so Paper 2 is the non-fiction papers. It's viewpoints and perspectives. You will have two sources to read in this exam, source A and source B. They'll be from different centuries, but they'll be linked by theme. Okay, so at the start of your exam, we recommend that you take 10 minutes to read the documents. Make some annotations, use your highlighters, anything that you notice as you're reading, make a note of them, highlight them. Is it a particular technique? Is there a particular association? And write that down. Okay, then you're ready for question 1. On question 1, you'll be asked to shade in 4 true statements. You'll have a box next to them, with a little circle in that box. You want to shade it and shade the 4 statements that are true. Sometimes it might appear that more statements are true, but there are only 4 that are actually true, and you need to check that by reading the designated line numbers that the question states. Okay, so now we're going to look at Paper 2, Question 2. This one is worth 8 marks. This is the summary writing question. Okay, so this week or maybe last week we were looking at 2 texts. One was about Glastonbury Festival and one was about Greenwich Fair. And you were asked to find the differences in the things that people could see and the things that people could do. Okay, so you need to go through and you need to find some quotations just about those things from the question. So you need to read the question carefully and only discuss things that they could see and that they could do. You then need to find some quotations to back those ideas up, and then you need to infer what could be suggested by those quotations. So in this case, it could be suggested that the Glastonbury Festival was more organised, with people going to see particular bands like the Killers, whereas in the Dickens text, there was a cacophony of sound and it seemed more chaotic, and you could infer that from those quotations that you had used. Okay, no more than 10 minutes, no language features please in this question, so no need for language features. It really is just about summarising those similarities or differences as stated in the question. Okay, so now we're going to look at Paper 2, Question 3. So, Paper 2, Question 3 asks you to find language features and words and phrases that have been used effectively in a given section. Okay, so you can go back to those same skills that you used for Paper 1, Question 2. You're looking for language features, you're looking for particular adjectives and adverbs that have been used effectively within that text. Also, because it's non-fiction, you may notice some De Forest features if you've been learning about those in your lesson as well. Okay, so it's the same assessment criteria as for Paper 1, Question 2 as well. So we're looking for, in your point, the use of some terminology, in your evidence, a quotation from the text, and then in the explain part, you need to say the effect on the reader again. So we need those 3 different parts in your point, evidence, explain paragraphs. You want to use your 4 best quotes. This one is worth 12 marks, okay? So it's about 12 minutes, and you want to be finding 4 really good quotes within the designated area. When we were looking at the Dickens text, you were asked to find how does Dickens use language to make the reader feel like they're at the fair. And you could have used the example there of the direct address. Dickens welcomes you. Imagine yourself would be your quotation. How does that make you feel? Well, that really engages the reader. They feel that that quotation is directly for them, and it takes them on the journey through the fair that Dickens has presented. Okay, you've got this question, you're really confident with language features, it's a good 12 marks. Go for it, go to town on the effect, maybe have 2 effects for each question, and you get loads of marks for question 3. Okay, so Paper 2, Question 4. This is going to ask you to compare the whole of Source A, everything that's in there, with everything in Source B. Okay, so what's included in that? You can talk about language features, you can talk about structural features, and you can talk about tone. Is it a negative tone? Is it a positive tone? Are they happy to be there? Are they angry to be there? It's really good to revise tone words, and you can see those on the Padlet board for this question. Okay, so 16 marks, so it's a big mark question, it's a longer essay type question, and you want to really write point, evidence, explain paragraphs from both sources. One thing that's often forgotten from this question is the methods, okay? You must have those terminology words in there, those Rosemap words or those De Forest words, but also tone is quite interesting to track. When we were looking at the Glastonbury text, many students noted how the tone had changed throughout the text. Initially, the author was quite disappointed to be invited to Glastonbury, and she was concerned about the mud and the devastation. You can find quotations to back that up. But as you tracked the text, you could see towards the end she had a more positive tone about Glastonbury Festival, and she was more excited to be there, and she got carried away by the excitement of the atmosphere. If you can track those changes throughout and use quotations to back that up, that's going to be really, really good. But remember, you need to do that for source A and for source B, but also talk about any other methods as well. It may be appropriate to use other quotations that you've already used in question 3. You can reuse those if it backs up the argument that you need for question 4. Again, because it's 16 marks, it's a longer essay question. Point, evidence, explain paragraphs across both sources, and don't forget to include those methods. Okay, so now we're on to the final question of the paper. Question 5, 40 marks available, half the marks for the whole paper. Okay, so all your remaining time is going to be used on this paper. You're going to be given a controversial statement with which you need to respond to produce your non-fiction text. You could be asked to write an article, you could be asked to write a speech, you could be asked to write a letter, you could be asked to write an essay, any other number of non-fiction texts. But the mark scheme's exactly the same, okay? So you're still going to be rewarded 24 marks for content and organisation and 16 for your technical accuracy. It's well worth remembering that it is quality, not quantity. It's well worth taking 5 or 10 minutes at the start of your time to plan what it is you are going to say. Perhaps you could use 2 mind maps. Perhaps you could use 1 to paragraph plan the topics and the ideas of things that you're going to include, and another one to have some language features. There are marks awarded for using figurative language, so think back to those Rosemap features to illustrate your points, and perhaps some De Forest features as well. Quite often it could be a persuasive text. You could be asked to persuade your audience to a particular point of view. Okay. It's also really important to remember to use a variety of punctuation marks. There's 16 marks for technical accuracy. You have to allow time to proofread, to check for those spelling errors, for those punctuation errors. Try to include a whole host of different punctuation marks. Have you included a colon to introduce a list? Have you checked all your apostrophes? Often the first error that an examiner may notice, have you used some brackets and some dashes? Make sure you haven't got any run-on sentences. Could be important to have some short impact sentences compared to some longer, more complex sentences. There's a lot to think about, but overall you want to get your voice across to express your views and impress the examiner with your persuasive writing techniques and your non-fiction writing. Okay, so that's paper 2 completed, 80 marks in total. Those marks will be added together to the marks that you got from paper 1, and we're really, really hoping that you've got that grade 4 or above in the bag and you've passed your GCSE English language. Okay, thank you very much.